There is, of course, no way that we can capture Tesla's turbulent history fairly in just one or two short videos. And to be honest, I don't want to just regurgitate history in great detail when you can easily get comprehensive accounts elsewhere. The focus of this episode, instead, will be on specific points in Tesla's history that I feel uniquely illustrate how gut-wrenching it was for Elon Musk and Tesla to get the EV revolution going.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
In early 2007, Elon Musk, as a hands-on chairman of the board, was worried about certain manufacturing issues and brought in a fixer, Tim Watkins, to come in and assess how much the company was actually spending. After weeks of investigation and interviews, Watkins concluded that the Roadster Tesla was planning to sell for $85,000 was costing them about $200,000 to build. This led to more delays in the launch of the Roadster, which they had previously announced would happen as early as 2006. Members of the team frequently pulled all-nighters as they tried to correct technical issues, reduce costs, and firm up the supply chain. Martin Eberhard, co-founder and CEO, and Elon Musk were increasingly at odds with each other, and Musk eventually forced him out as CEO in August 2007, demoting him to President of Technology. Eberhard was replaced by Michael Marks, a former CEO of Flextronics, who was replaced just months later in December 2007 by Zeev Drory, a former Silicon Valley company founder, who was replaced by Elon Musk in October 2008. During this turbulent period, the Roadster was essentially rebooted. Exactly who should bear most of the blame for this period being so crazy and apparently disorganized will depend on who you ask. Both Eberhard and Musk, for instance, have very different takes on the story. No surprise there. I don't pretend to know the answer, but what does seem obvious is that it was a very hectic and exhausting time for everyone in the company.
There were some tough times in end of 2008. How did you get through that period of crisis?
Yeah. Can we just break for a second?
Sure, of course. Yeah.
Late 2008 is probably one of the more well-known periods in Elon's life, with good reason, and it deserves mentioning. The Roadster launched in early 2008, but the car that was supposed to cost $25 million to develop eventually ended up costing closer to $140 million. Tesla in late 2008 was running out of cash. At the same time, Elon was in the middle of a divorce, and his ex-wife Justine was frequently blogging about their marriage, in general painting a very unflattering picture of him. Elon was also CEO of SpaceX. After 3 failed launches of their first rocket, the Falcon 1, SpaceX finally had a successful orbital launch on September 28, 2008. But by the end of that year, SpaceX was basically out of money also. They had no income and were going to miss payroll. On top of all these pressures, the global financial crisis of 2008-2009 was seriously picking up steam, and the lending environment was panicky. At the same time, consumer demand for luxury vehicles was understandably dropping. Tallulah Riley, Musk's girlfriend at the time, said of that period, "Because of the long hours that he worked and his eating habits, Musk's weight fluctuated wildly. Bags formed under his eyes, and his countenance started to resemble that of a shattered runner at the back end of an ultra-marathon. He looked like death itself," Riley said. "I remember thinking this guy would have a heart attack and die. He seemed like a man on the brink."
He'd have night terrors in the middle of the night. I'd be fast asleep, and then suddenly he would be screaming in his sleep and sort of trying to climb up, like in his sleep, trying to escape something.
Money got so tight for Musk in 2008 that he even began borrowing money from friends and took Southwest to fly back and forth between LA and Silicon Valley. And this was a man who used to travel by private jet. In early December 2008, Musk was trying frantically to raise more investor capital for Tesla, but ran into a roadblock. One investor fund was balking. and Musk feared they were trying to oust him as CEO so they could gain control of Tesla and sell it off. So Musk basically started a dangerous game of chicken with them, knowing that the company he had built and the livelihoods of hundreds of employees were on the line. By late December 2008, both SpaceX and Tesla were on the brink of bankruptcy.
The biggest investor says, we're not going to put another penny in the company. In that moment, Elon did something that I've never seen any entrepreneur do, going net into debt. He borrowed money from friends, literally spent every penny he had, plus more, and he told all the folks at Tesla, I'll just do the whole thing. I'll invest $40 million. He had no house to his name, he had nothing, he was all in.
On December 23rd, NASA unexpectedly announced that SpaceX had won a $1.6 billion contract to supply the International Space Station. SpaceX had barely dodged a bullet. And the next day, Christmas Eve, Musk's gambit for Tesla paid off.
People's fear switched to greed. All of the other inside investors, ourselves included, invested as much as we could. That wasn't our bravery, it was Elon's bravery that we attached to.
And we managed to close the financing round on the last hour of the last day that it was possible. So it was Christmas Eve, 2008, 6 p.m.
It's estimated that by January 2009, Musk had invested about $70 million of his own money into Tesla. In contrast, Rivian, for instance, was able to raise about $1.5 billion between 2018 and 2019 alone from deep-pocketed investors that included Amazon and Ford. And this was still during their development stage, as they would not even deliver any production vehicles until September 2021. In the 2011 to 2012 timeframe, Tesla struggled to ramp up production of its Model S, leading to delays and missed delivery targets. By early 2013, Tesla was back in crisis mode. Even though the Model S had won Motor Trend's prestigious Car of the Year award in 2012, early enthusiasm had turned into cautious waiting, and not enough customers were converting their reservations into actual purchases. Finances, as usual, were very tight. Compounding difficulties, Tesla had gone public, and if word got out that Tesla's factory might idle due to low demand, shares would plummet. To really get a feel for how dire things were, you need to listen to George Blankenship, the man behind the highly successful Apple stores, who was hired to set up Tesla stores and run their service center operations.
We're halfway through the quarter and we weren't making it. We were not making it. And I'm really getting emotional here because this was really a tough time. I started an email trail to Elon every night, telling him, here's how many have sold, here's how many delivered, here's how many we have deposits on, and here's where we stand. And it didn't look good.
Realizing how precarious circumstances were, Musk took swift, all-out action. Musk pulled people from recruiting, the design studio, engineering, finance, and wherever else he could find them, and ordered them to get on the phone, call people with reservations, and close deals. If we don't deliver these cars, we're effed, Musk told the employees. So I don't care what job you were doing. Your new job is delivering cars.
Then on the Tuesday, the last week of the quarter, I sent him one. And I remember it as if it was yesterday. He said, this looks promising. And it was Saturday at 3 o'clock. We delivered the 4,750th car, 3 o'clock. We made $11 million that quarter, put us over the hump. I stood up on the desk like this, called everybody around, and I said, you guys have no idea how impactful it is what you just did. We were a real company on March 31st, 2013.
Following that crucial first quarter of 2013, Tesla stock soared. But it's fair to say that throughout 2008 to 2019, essentially the first decade after Tesla began delivering cars, they were dodging one bullet after another. Just because they had pulled off the impossible and escaped death one more time didn't mean that things were going to be easy anytime soon. There were recalls for the Model S. When Tesla introduced the Model X, they again struggled to meet production targets, leading to delays and production inefficiencies. Additionally, Tesla had difficulty scaling its battery production for the Model S and Model X. And then came the excruciating Model 3 ramp. As difficult and problematic as past ramp-ups had been for Tesla's earlier models, this was the ramp-up that gained the moniker Production Hell. The ramp-up for the Model 3 was different because this car was supposed to be Tesla's truly high-volume car. Tesla had over 400,000 pre-orders for the Model 3, and they struggled to meet demand due to all manner of production delays and missed delivery targets. Both customers and investors were frustrated. The situation was so grave that the company had to build a large tent outside the Fremont factory in California in order to add a second assembly line for the Model 3. Additionally, the company faced criticism over working conditions at its factories and high turnover among employees, while Musk himself was accused of poor management and leadership. Musk eventually went so far as to take over some production responsibilities himself, working alongside factory employees and famously sleeping on the factory floor at times to show solidarity with the workers. Elon acknowledged that the production ramp for the Model 3 was much more difficult than he initially anticipated, and that it was taking a toll on him personally. He exhibited erratic behavior. He also acknowledged that the production hell period was a critical moment for the company and its future.
How close to death did you come?
Within single-digit weeks.
22 hours a day, or how many
I
hours?
was working, so 7 days a week, sleeping in the factory. I worked in the paint shop, general assembly, body shop. No one should put this many hours into work. This is not good.
Sometimes the problems were caused by his own mistakes in judgment. Although Musk was relying on auto industry veterans to help guide Tesla through the process of making cars, Musk made all major decisions, and sometimes he unfortunately wasn't right. For instance, by his own admission, he had relied too much on robots in assembling the cars. About this entire period, Elon in August 2018 said that, "This past year has been the most difficult and painful year of my career. It was excruciating." For Musk to imply that 2018 was even more difficult than 2008 says volumes for someone who has an inhuman tolerance for stress and pain. The good news is that there was a happy ending. As we all know, the company eventually did overcome these challenges, and by the end of 2018 was able to deliver more than 365,000 cars. Again, these are merely a few of the turbulent times that Tesla and Elon have weathered. Suffice it to say, being the first mover in the mass EV market meant that Tesla would be the guinea pig. And don't get me wrong, starting any kind of car manufacturing business is going to be hard. But being first, and having such a grand comprehensive vision to boot, contributed to an exceptionally rough road for Tesla. And after Tesla's initial successes, and especially after their successful IPO, other electric car startups began to proliferate. Tesla had shown that it was safe to get into the water. And when you think about it, that is what Elon wanted all along. Tesla wasn't going to accomplish the EV revolution on their own, but the revolution had to start somewhere. Someone needed to get the reaction going, so to speak. And the other guys? Well, they just needed someone to pave the way.